Oh. There's no folder here.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, ma.
Okay. Good morning. Please just help me inform the other members offline that we are on for the class now.
We have sent a message, ma.
Okay. All right.
We currently
Okay.
Thank you, ma.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I was having technical hitches and I had to be contacting the admin back and forth till I'm able to connect. So we are on to SST 719, legal issues in social standard. So I don't know how many of you are with me. If you are in the class, can you indicate so that I'll be sure of the people that are available? You can either put up your hand or respond off your mic and respond and put it off.
I'm in the class, ma. Thank you, ma.
All right. Okay. All right, that's okay. I think we can go on while others join us.
I'm in the class.
Okay, okay. I think I can see a good number of people around. So today we are going to, I'll share the documents subsequently. What we are doing in SST 719 is to pick on specific issues that are relevant to social development that are touching on law. So we are going to be doing a rundown of issues. At least I will send you part of the documents before tomorrow's lecture. And let me just highlight what we are going to expect. It's not a duplication of what we did in SST 717, Law and the Society. Now we are taking on legal issues, and these are issues that will really probe your mind. As we talk on social development, what are the critical legal issues that relate to social development? So to give a good background, we are going to look at what is law. If you know, we didn't quite dwell on that in our last class. We are going to look at what is law. We are going to look at the objectives of law. We are going to look at the concept of rule of law. So these are the preliminaries. What is law? Basic objectives of law or functions of law in the society and in social development. We look at the concept of rule of law. Now, away from there, we look at what is referred to as human rights and social justice. Human rights and social justice, that's supposed to encompass a fundamental human right under the Nigerian law. But we skip that when we come to that because I'm virtually seeing the same names that were in this class in the other course. So we may skip that for want of time. But we look at key stakeholders in the social institution. Who are the key stakeholders? So we look at social justice, human rights and social justice. We look at social justice and equality. Social standard deals with issues of equality in appropriating available resources in the society. So we look at what social justice and equality means, challenges and opportunities. Then from there, we look at barriers to access to justice in Nigeria. That alone, when we are doing it for people who were part of the other class, some of the things we correlate. What are those barriers? Because we are talking about social justice. Is it everybody that has access to this social justice? Or is it everybody that even has access to justice in Nigeria? Then we look at legal aid and alternative dispute resolution. Then this is an aspect that will really interest you too, because as development workers, you are going to look at what is called ADR, alternative dispute resolution. These are some of the mechanisms that you don't necessarily need to go to court to be able to explore them. You can, become a stakeholder in the environment of law if you are equipped with alternative dispute resolution. You can mediate as a person, you can arbitrate, You can negotiate between warring or conflicting parties. You can, at your own level, have different levels of interventions that you can intervene when there are conflicts in your immediate environment. So we are going to look at legal aid and alternative dispute resolution. Then we also look at strategies for improving access to justice. Now, talking about social justice and legal issues that have to do with social development, we are going to look at domestic violence and sexual abuse. We need to understand what that concept means. Then what is the legal framework? The legal framework for addressing domestic violence and sexual abuse in Nigeria. We look at challenges and limitations of implementation. We look at support services and remedies for victims. Because you agree with me that if you're a development worker, these are some of the prevalent issues that you find in our immediate social development environments. Issues of domestic violence, issues of, sexual abuse. And then, how do you handle some of these challenges? What is the legal framework? What are the limitations? What are the obstacles? Where do we come in? What do we do to improve on this? Then, from there, we go to corruption and social standards. Corruption and its impact on social standards, anti-corruption laws and institutions, strategies for combating corruption. Then finally, we look at the emerging issues in social standard, impact of technology, role of social media in promoting social justice, and the future direction of social standard in Nigeria. It may look a bit lengthy, but for want of time, we will run through it, and at the end, we also appreciate the fact that some of these issues will also prompt your mind to either study further or get to dig more on your own, because you cannot be a student of social development without having, I know so many of you, especially who are in development work, who are already combating with some of these issues, talking about violence, domestic violence, talking about sexual abuse, issues of corruption, and then the legal instruments that are available to assist you as a development worker or as a social worker in handling these issues, because these are things you will certainly come across in the course of your practice and in the course of managing human beings in the society and having to contribute your bits in the society. These are some of the issues that you will certainly come across. So you need to have a brief look at the legal instrument, even if it is not in depth. You should have a mental picture of the available legal instrument that even at your own level, you can take a look at it and explore them in trying to support people who are faced with some of these challenges. So, God helping us, we will not want to eat into our time this time around, because I think on the platform I even saw exam timetables. So we try to move very fast to be able to catch up with what is before us. So first of all, we are going to look at what is law. Now, but I think I want to hear from the class briefly. What is your own understanding of law? What is law? Somebody should tell us. You don't need to cram, you don't need to quote. You only need to, in your own understanding or by your own understanding, tell us what you understand law to be. So is there anybody in the class that can respond to us? What is law by your own understanding?
Good morning, ma.
Yes, good morning, Grace.
Yes, ma. Let me just try, ma.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Since you said we should use our understanding, okay, laws are rules and regulation guiding a particular country or a society to have a more peaceful society, and all the laws and rules are actually binding on the citizens of that particular country or maybe a community. Thank you, ma. Am I being heard, ma?
Sorry, Grace, can you repeat what you said? I didn't hear you.
Okay, ma. I said from my own understanding, there are rules and regulation that has been crafted out, to guide the execution of certain process in a nation or community. And the rules and regulations are actually binding on the citizen of that particular country or that particular community. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thrown out briefly, but I'm back. Is there anybody hearing me?
I can hear you, ma.
Can hear you, ma.
Okay, so I was asking if there was any contribution. Somebody wants to add something. We are trying to look at what law is. Yes, Grace has made a submission. I want to hear another person's contribution in your own way, in your own understanding.
Hello, ma.
Yes, Mr. Joseph.
Good morning, ma.
We can hear
Good
you.
morning,
Yes,
class.
good morning.
Okay,
Yes.
to my own understanding, law is a written or unwritten laid down guidelines or regulation for a community or a society or a country to abide by.
Laid down regulation.
Yes.
All right. So from what we can gather, that's okay, Joseph. Thank you for your contribution. From all we can gather, we can see that the word regulation has come up. The word rules have come up, written down. And one thing I want to add is that I want to just marry the two contributions together and make a submission that law is a set of rules and regulations created and enforced by a country or organization. It's a set of rules, regulations, practices, conventions, norms that governs an organization. I only expanded on that definition by adding conventions, practices, norms, rules, regulations that are set down. And these rules, like the second person submitted, is not only written rules that are laws. If you followed our last lecture in the other.
Hello, ma. Sorry to cut you. I said written or unwritten.
Hello?
Hello, ma. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I said written and unwritten.
Okay, written and unwritten. Okay.
Yes, ma.
All right, that's fine. So
I think she's logged out. I can't hear her.
Same here too.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, ma.
We can hear you now, ma.
Yes, are you hearing me now?
Yes, ma.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma. We can
Oh,
hear you now.
sorry. Sorry, we are suffering from technical issues. This thing throwing me in and out. I think we still make efforts to be going on. So, like I said, law is not just about the written rules. It encompasses regulations, conventions, practices, and norms that are practiced, whether written or unwritten, like the other speaker said correctly. So these laws are applicable, the rules are applicable in our organization. The written laws, like we have example, the Nigerian Constitution. The other time we did case studies, we discussed case studies of our organizational rules. And we saw that in some of our organized sectors, we have rules that are written down in document forms. And if you go to our traditional settings, we have conventions, we have practices that are acceptable standard of practice. People accept them as binding on them. They are not necessarily written down or they are not in document forms, but they are constituted as laws. So that is what law is. Now, what are the functions of law in our society? Law is set, first of all, to dictate what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior, protecting individuals and the society. It is by law that we know what is correct and what is not correct. So one of the key functions of law in our society is that it dictates what is acceptable and what is unacceptable, what acceptable and unacceptable behavior is. And it also helps in protecting individuals in the society. That's you and me. Is a law that guides us on what is right and what is not right. Then number two, law protects rights. So our individual rights, our freedoms, our interests, our do's and don'ts are being protected by law. Then number three is that it promotes order. It is by the instrument of law that we have maintenance of law and order, we have stability, we have security. It is law that defines what is your own security. It's law that is used as an instrument to measure what is order. Now, another key function of law is that it provides a framework for resolving conflicts and disputes. Without law, it will be difficult for us to resolve our conflicts. Because if I have a disagreement with any of you in the class here, by my understanding, I am always right. You always feel you are also right in your own way. So if there's no law that will guide us on what is right, then two of us will insist on our own ends. And at the end, there won't be anything that will help us to arrive at a solution. So law helps us to understand our limits. It creates boundaries for us. We know where to start and where to stop. So it's a measuring tool for conflict resolution. It helps me if we set, let's say that in a class like this, maybe a time for lecture is defined and you come into class late and I tell you not to come into class. Let's assume we're in a physical class You are supposed to report to class by 10. And once it is 15 minutes after 10, you are not allowed to come into the class. Then you come into the class and you have a very genuine reason, 20 minutes after 10. You come into the class and you have a very good reason. Maybe while you were coming, your car broke down, you know, you were delayed by traffic and all of that. Then I, on the other hand, I'm saying don't come in. Now, if there was no law, it would be difficult. I would be looked upon as a very wicked and a very heartless person. But because the law now says that 15 minutes after 10, you don't come into class, it becomes the only measuring tool that we can now use to resolve this issue. You are insisting, I am insisting. What did the law say? The law says 15 minutes after 10, nobody comes into class. So no matter how good your own and genuine your own reason is for coming late, the law now helps us to determine who is right and who is wrong. And the matter becomes resolved either by a third party or, yes, once we come before the authorities that be, they are able to look at what the law has said and they are able to help us to resolve what, you know, is right and, you know, apportion blame to who is wrong. And if there is punishment, assign punishment to who is wrong. Now, in Nigeria, we have a good number of laws. Laws are categorized into various branches. I just mentioned them. Now, we have the criminal law, which deals with justice of crimes and their punishment. We have the civil law, which covers disputes between individuals, organizations, or government entities. We have the constitutional law, which is saddled with the responsibility of interpreting and applying the Constitution. Then you have the international law that regulates interactions between countries and international organizations. So these are the basic branches of law that we have in Nigeria. One of the one that concerns us as individuals, when we're talking about the things we're going to run down, and we'll talk about a legal aids and alternative dispute resolution, which now involves you as a non-law enforcement agent, as a non-judiciary member. Now you are much more concerned with the civil law, because it's under the civil law that we have the alternative dispute resolution, where even you can become an arbiter, can become a judge. Maybe two members of the class are disputing, and you are there to reconcile. Reconciliation is one of the alternative dispute resolution mechanisms we are going to look at later. You know, now you become a judge by reconciling these two parties. You're already a key stakeholder in the environment of law, in the world of law. Now it concerns more, you are concerned much more in the civil law, where there are disputes between individuals, between organizations, or between government entities. Because even as a responsible member of the society, you cannot be betrayed. Even in conflict, in landed conflicts, the traditional institutions mediate. They are not law enforcement agents, they are not the judiciary, they are civil, you know, they are human beings, citizens in the society. But they can mediate and resolve even a landed conflict where two communities are worried. A responsible member of the society can come in and mediate, and they give direction. They can also reconcile parties. So they are also, you know, key stakeholders in the institution of law. So these are the basic branches of law that we have. And you know, looking at what law is, the key functions of law, and the basic branches of law, because at that level we basically have to, it's one of the things that basically concerns us at this level, so that we get to be very conversant with the issues that we are going to be building on later. We first of all need to know what the law itself is, because if you don't know what the law itself is and what it stands for, it will be difficult to build on it as we make progress. So I don't know so far if there is a question, because we are going to go into start going into the key concepts like rule of law. So is there any question from the preliminary angle before we go into the concept of rule of law? Yeah, I think silence means that there's no question so far. So we're going to look at rule of law. If you remember, if you were here an adult during the President Yar'Adua's regime, he always made mention of rule of law, rule of law, rule of law. Now, what is this rule of law about? Who can help us in the class? What is rule of law? Because this concept was so common during his regime, rule of law, rule of law, rule of law. So what is rule of law? Somebody should give us a hint, even if you don't know so much. So who is helping us out?
Hello, ma.
Yes.
I think, okay, rule of law, they are fundamental concepts that ensures that all individuals, including institutions and government officials, are subject to the law. And it emphasizes on the importance of maybe being accountable, fair application of the laws, and equality before the law.
Okay. All right, that's splendid. Now, on a day-to-day, let's put it down in a very simple on a day-to-day practice. Rule of law simply means equality before the law. Simply means that law is supreme. Law is superior. Law is above every individual. Law takes the lead in everything that we do. You know, I'm trying to break it down so that we can relate with it. Now, it again means that nobody is above the law. It simply means that irrespective of whoever you are, you know, whether you are the president, you are the governor, you are a very wealthy person, you are very educated, you are non-educated, you are living in town, you are in a village, that there are basic standards that everybody is subject to. And nobody should be seen to be unruly because of a certain status that he assumes in the society. So rule of law is a concept in law that means it's set to determine equality of all persons. So it should help us to know that once the law says this, whoever you are, you come under the law. If the law says, you know, while driving, follow these routes, whoever you are, you shouldn't be seen to be coming in the opposite direction. Now, as members of the society, we must know that actually law carries this level of weight for us to even appreciate the law itself. And I know that there has been several arguments that yes, some people seem to be living above the law. Yes, in every rule, you see abuse of laws, you see abuse of opportunities, you see abuses everywhere. But by the basic principle of rule of law simply means everyone is subject to law, every law is above everyone, and nothing else. Now, there are two dimensions to the concept of rule of law. One is supremacy of the law, and number two is equality before the law. And supremacy of the law simply means that the law is supreme authority and all individuals and institutions are bound by it. Law is above everyone, and everyone is subject to it. The number two dimension is equality before the law. So there are two wings to rule of law: supremacy of the law and equality before the law. Law is supreme, and everyone that comes under the law must respect the law, no matter who he is. That's why even the people that are makers of the law, when they fall foul of the law, they are held accountable. Members of the legislative houses that are makers of the law are held accountable before the law. Yes. So even the implementers of the law, who are the executive arm in government, they are held accountable. So nobody should appear to live above the law. So that's what that principle simply means. And that principle goes further to promote, what we call separation of powers. Separation of powers means that the three arms of government should work independently. And the legislative, executive, and the judicial branches of the law should be given an open arm to operate, should be given their opportunities to operate freely without encroachment. And I think let's bring it down to even our workplaces. That is why powers and authorities are delegated. When you are given an office, your roles and responsibilities are assigned to you. And when you are found working in an office, there's a hierarchy, and every desk is supposed to have its own schedule. And under your schedule, you are supposed to be given a level of independence. That's not to take away the role of supervision, but you should be told what to do, and you should also acquire the capacity and the ability to be able to execute what you are doing. And then again, we look at the issue of independence of judiciary. Rule of law, again, promotes independence of judiciary. Independence of judiciary simply means that the judiciary that is the interpreter of the law should be given the liberty to take their decisions without interferences. Without interferences. Judges should have a clear mind to look at the cases before them, look at the evidence before them, examine the evidence, and arrive at a decision which is called the judgment of the courts. Now, without anybody coming to influence them, anybody coming to interrupt, coming to, intimidate, influence by using intimidation or using money or using relationships to intimidate and influence them. Now, I want us to discuss, talking about independence of judiciary as an arm of rule of law. Can we say that in Nigeria, the judiciary is operating without interruptions or is independent? I want us to respond.
Ma, I didn't hear what you said, ma.
Okay, I said that we are talking about independence of judiciary, and independence of judiciary entails the judiciary, that is the judges, the people that are sitting over our cases, should operate without interferences, without influences of all kinds. So by our observation and the things that we see in the society, can we practically say that the judiciary is independent? And if no, then you can give us a few examples without necessarily calling names, if there are.
Okay,
Is
ma.
there any... Okay, yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much, ma. In terms of our society is no, we have a lot of process being halted, our implementation of the laws being halted as a result of um foreign, not what I mean by foreign, not like outside Nigeria, maybe some other arms of government, coming to like interfere in processes. So it has led to it has also degenerated to the society because um the makers of the laws, the three arms of government that are seen, to ensure that these laws that are made, interpreted, are well executed, not entirely, but in some instances, you see that they actually break the law. So it's it has also made the citizen, to like take laws into their hands, break the law, and all that is for instance, for a child that the father will like, don't do this, or the mother, don't do this. And then the parents end up doing those things because, like children, I want to liken the society to children. So children actually look at what their parents do. They actually copy from the actions of the parents more than what they are being told, because they observe and they also match what you are saying with what you are carrying out. So, and that's the reason why it's expected that the parents live an exemplary life. And so that, because this child will pick from there, and um, when he or she is faced with similar situation, the child brings out that particular action that he sees his parents carrying out. So that's my contribution, ma.
Okay. All right, that's a good one. Any other person, please, I want us to participate. We are looking at independence of judiciary. And judiciary in this nation, judiciary in this circumstance simply entails the judges, like I said. Now, these people are supposed to carry out their duties without anybody interfering with what they do. Can we sincerely say that that is what is happening in our society at the moment? Can we contribute?
Good morning, ma.
Good morning.
For me, I feel the law, well, the legislators of the law are independent, and the law is partial because it only suits them when they feel it's of an advantage to them. That's looking at what is happening in society lately. That is what I can say is happening. The law is partial. They only use it when it suits them.
Okay. All right. So, any other person? Because I want us to interact. I want us to interact in the class. So let me explain further. One of the reasons why we're talking about judiciary and its independence, because in the absence of these principles, it is really difficult for, it is actually difficult for this concept, as beautiful as they are, it will be difficult for them to be achieved, because if rule of law entails that the judiciary should be independent, the independence of judiciary simply means that the judges' minds should not be influenced. Now, if you look at the ethics of the legal profession, especially the bench, you will realize that one of the reasons why in the past, even me that is in the legal profession, I cannot authoritatively speak that it is still very obtainable. But in the past, judges were not even expected to be so much socialized, going out to drinking joints, interacting. The whole idea was that it was in a bid to stop them from being influenced, because at times of socialization, people can become relaxed. Maybe you go to a drinking joint with a friend, and at that point you become so relaxed and begin to talk, beginning to disclose things that you should ordinarily not, and all of that. And then somebody can easily buy the mind of the judge over. So because of that, judges were highly expected not to, to limit their level of interaction. That's not to say they will not even have a family. Yes, they will have a family. They're having, to become so socialized to a point that they will get to the extent where their minds can be affected on certain things, because you actually don't know whose case is before you as a judge. So where you become so exposed to the society, anybody can have access to you as a judge, and they influence your mind in one way or the other. So it's one of the reasons. And another reason, like I said before, whenever a judge notices that he has an influence, the parties that are even before him are people that he knows, he's expected not to even hear that case. I had a personal experience, and I witnessed one of the cases where we were in courts, and when the people that were in courts, they came to courts, stood up to announce appearance before the judge. The judge now discovered that one of the persons involved was his primary school headmaster. And he called the attention of the court and said that he cannot hear this case because one of the litigants was his headmaster in the primary school. So he will have to return this file to the chief judge, who will assign this case to another person. Now, the whole idea is that how humanly difficult it is for you to give judgment against your primary school teacher. All of us know how attached many a times we are, especially to our primary school and secondary school teachers. So it becomes a difficult thing. So he had to decline and refuse to hear the case. So that's how much it is expected of judges, the judiciary, to be independent. And it is expected that if the rule of law is not treated in this manner, the judges are not independent, it will be difficult to get the best out of the law. Now, in our current situation, sometimes we hear instances where people will come to social media, give names of judges, cases are going on in courts, and they will say they carried money, hundreds of millions or billions. They gave this one this much, they gave this one this much to be able to give judgment in favor of this one, in favor of that one. We've also heard cases like that. So it becomes very difficult for, although like I keep saying, some of these things are things that are not done in the open. So I don't also have access to the facts that are there, so I cannot authoritatively speak on it. But I have seen write-ups on social media, laying some of these very serious allegations against judges and saying that they 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 had a hand in one way or the other in receiving bribe, so they could influence judgment in favor of one person or the other. Rule of law is supposed to forbid this kind of a thing. So where rule of law is in force, issues like this are not supposed to come up. They are not supposed to come up, because once that happens, it destroys the rule of law. The law loses its own credibility and integrity. There's no integrity. No, unity. See why? Let me see why. Yeah, see why? Look at it. Yeah, look at it. I said 2-5. Look at it. It's not like it's 2,000. You say 2-5. If I don't have it, I'll transfer it. I didn't know it. Yes. Sorry for the interruption. So now where that happens, the rule of law itself loses its own credibility, and it becomes like a laughing stock in the society. Where the law is supposed to be supreme, then the interpreters of the law are supposed to be credible people, where their minds are not influenced in any way. So rule of law implies independence of judiciary. And honestly, like this saying that people keep saying that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. If the judiciary is compromised, then it's very difficult for rule of law to be useful. The law can no longer be supreme if the interpreters of the law are compromised. Because anybody that the highest bidder can buy the law, a poor person will now suffer. So sincerely, countries that have made a huge positive impact on their societies are countries that uphold the law. Whoever you are a senator, you are a National Assembly member, you should still be able to stand with your shoulders high, and the law should be able to hold you responsible where you break the law. But where that is no longer the case, then we cannot claim that there's rule of law in oppression. And where there's no rule of law, then it's a collapse. It can lead to a total systems collapse. So these are some of the things that are looking at key legal issues in social development. These are key things that we must pay attention to, because the society depends on the law, and the law depends on the independence of the judiciary, because the judiciary is like the one that hold the key to the law. They are the ones that can say this is what the law say and stand by it. And if you violate it, then we give judgment against you, and that judgment stands. The way the judiciary begins to compromise, then no matter how beautiful the laws that are made are, the executive can get up and walk away from the law and do what they want. So it becomes like a mockery. The law becomes an object of mockery. And when the law becomes an object of mockery, the society suffers. The highest bidders buy judgment. The people who are stronger, have full access to, it's difficult to call it justice. They have their way. Let me say have their way, because it's no longer justice. It's about having their way and having what they want. So we can no longer lay claim of it where independence of judiciary is not guaranteed. So independence of judiciary is what really brings sanity in every society. and brings about social development. The society develop where judiciary is independent. If you go to countries where things are working, it's because their judiciary is very, very independent. Nobody is interfering. The executives are not interfering. They can, hold anybody accountable and pass a judgment in favor or against anybody, irrespective of whoever they are. Now, again, rule of law also promotes access to justice. Individuals have access to justice, have access to courts. They are allowed to seek remedies where their rights are violated. Now, one of the things, again, that rule of law promotes is stability and security. It helps bring about stability in the society. The opposite of rule of law is like the survival of the fittest, where you survive by your strength, you survive by your connection, you survive by what you have, you survive by your ability to manipulate the system to your own advantage. Rule of law is the opposite, is what gives every weak person, in quotes, an opportunity to have a say, to have a voice in what happens. Where that is absent, then it's very difficult to claim that the society is good. Again, rule of law promotes human rights protection. Yes, it is a rule of law that guarantees your fundamental human rights. It is the rule of law that says that you have the right to fair hearing, so you have an issue, nobody should just silence you. Even if it's in a workplace, nobody should just get up and silence you and say, no, 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 no. Who are you? Who are you? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? When I'm talking, you should not talk. Rule of law tells you, protects you, provides law, and say, yes, even if you are a nobody, in quotes, so long as you are a citizen of this nation, you are entitled to the right to be heard when there is an issue. So you should speak up, and where you are not allowed to speak, you should also seek redress from a higher authority, because your right to be heard is guaranteed by the Constitution. So long as the Constitution is concerned, it is the highest instrument of law that we have. So nobody can just silence you. So again, it promotes good governance. I think that's quite obvious. Where there is rule of law, it is, it is obvious that we live to have good governance, because good governance is about people having fair share of the available resources. And these resources range from the economic resources, from the social justice, from the opportunities that are available. It's no longer about whether I'm connected to somebody who is in government and it's only by so doing that I can get a job. And if you don't know anybody, the kind of things we hear when you go to look for a job, they say, go and look for a politician in your place. And to give you a note, you need to know a big politician, to be able to, rule of law forbids such. Because if rule of law promotes good governance, then it simply means that there is equal opportunities for everyone. If a job opportunities come up, you should be able to apply, you should be able to be interviewed, and if you qualify for it, you should be given, irrespective of whether you know somebody or you have the money to pay for the job or not. Once you are qualified for it, you should be given, you should be given an opportunity to be offered such a job without having to go through anybody or to go and pay money, because this thing has led to so many people losing opportunities. Once you don't have anybody and you don't have the money to buy from the things we see and hear, then you remain, you lose out on almost all the opportunities that are available. And we cannot say that rule of law is in place where such practices are going on. Those practices are an indication that there is absence of rule of law in our societies. So generally, I don't know, from our practical experiences, the Nigerian society where we are today, can we practically say that rule of law is in oppression? You can also make your own contribution and cite practical examples if you can say. Can you say that rule of law is in oppression in Nigeria as we are here in Nigeria now? I want somebody from the class to speak. Please, I will appreciate participation in this class. If you are not participating, it simply means that you are not present. And I will mark attendance for the class and give marks for people who are present. So the only way I will know that you are present is for you to ask questions, is for you to contribute, is for you to, say something. You cannot be in a class and just remain quiet. The class is for all of us. I'm also learning from some of the things that you are saying. So I'm not just the only authority in this area. Anybody's hand up?
Hello, ma. Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, I can hear you, Precious.
Okay. For me, I feel the rule of law is not operational. If I understand you correctly, the example I'm going to give now, the perfect example I'm thinking about is, for instance, the presidential elections. We had a criteria for whoever is supposed to sit on that seat. The age, I think there's an age limit, and the educational qualifications of people that are supposed to sit in that seat. But as you can see today, anybody that feels it's their turn to rule just gets into the seat and rigs. So for me, the rule of law doesn't stand presently.
Okay, that's a good one. Any other contribution? Let's speak up. Is rule of law operational practically in Nigeria, the Nigerian society as we are today? Let's speak up.
Hello.
Let's speak up. Yes, I can hear you, Stella. Are you speaking, Stella? I heard you.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear
I'm
you.
not sure it's operating in our country because. Yes, I'm talking, ma.
Yes,
ma.
I
said
hear
the rule
you.
of law is not operating in our country because if there is a vacancy and you apply, most times you will be asked to, the opportunity will be given to you, or they will refer you to meet someone that has slots. The slot has been sold to the top politicians. So you must go through them before you will be able to get opportunity. So I'm not sure the rule of law in our country is operating. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, she said that by her observation and experience, she does not believe the rule of law is operating. Any other contribution before we move? Because from here, we are moving to the next topic. I appreciate your contributions. With practical examples if you have, so that we can relate. Talking about rule of law, the law is supreme, judiciary should be independent, equality before the law, and all. So can we say that this is practically in oppression in our society at the moment? With practical examples if you have. Are we there? Okay. All right. Okay, Ruth, I can see your hand up. You can speak up. Yes, Ruth, you can speak. We are with you.
Good morning, ma'am.
Yes, good morning.
Okay, so I would say the rule of law is not area, and my reason is there is selective applications of law of this law. For instance, not everybody is equal before the law.
Okay.
And an ordinary or
Okay, it appears the speaker is thrown out momentarily. Okay. All right, so the absence of
Hello,
any
ma.
other. Okay.
Sorry, I'm just on my way to school. But from what I've heard, I just want to make a little contribution, man.
Okay.
Concerning the rule of law. I can say it's not applicable. In some places, in some instances, it's not applicable. I want to use the Nigerian police force as an example. You see, sometimes they will pass a law maybe in a state that, okay, there should be no movement, maybe from so time to so time. Maybe from movement, people using a bike should not move once it is 8 p.m. And you see the police men from that 8 p.m., that is when you will see them moving as an or using their vehicle as an Okada. So I feel if the law is supposed to divide by everybody, they too, they are supposed to be included. They are not supposed to move at that particular time for their businesses.
Okay. All right. So I think these contributions are a testament to the fact that we are following, the lecture, and we are together. Now, let me make a recap before we move to the next topic. I want to say that yes, I don't want to accept the fact that the rule of law is entirely not in place. Rule of law is operational to some extent, to some extent it is operational, because if you look at the things that even some of the policies or the agencies that the government has put in place, like the Federal Character Commission, they are a pointer to the fact that the law is supposed to be the spread of employment even in the nation is supposed to recognize or take into account the various regions when appointments are to be made, when employment is to be given. These things are observed to an extent. Now look at the issue of even rotations of presidency in the nation, rotations of appointments into key government organizations, employment opportunities, even though these things are not strictly followed. But I believe that if these things were not even recognized at all, then it is, I'm not sure some communities in this nation would have ever been represented anywhere in this nation entirely. So I want to say that we can only propose for a strengthening and the sanity of our system, because it means that with agencies like Federal Character Commission, the law is conscious that there should be some level of recognizing that when employment is to be made, let's say a state-owned organization is even employing, local governments should be represented in the employment. And the community, the immediate community within which the organization is situated, is supposed to be given some level of slots and level of opportunities. That's a representation, fair representation even in employment. And appointments, key appointments are made, even political appointment. Okay, this person has to come from North Central. If this person comes from the South, or from the Southwest, or from the Northeast, this one should come from here. So I think that in the spirit of a rule of law, these structures were put in place to ensure applicability of rule of law. Yes, our system is degenerating, but I think there are some elements here and there that you find where the rule of law is oppression, or is oppressional. And let's recognize that before we, bring in criticisms and make proposals on the way forward. Now, we have sincerely criticized the absence of rule of law, which I also agree, because how come that when federal agencies are employing now, you hear names of people from certain locations more than others? It is no longer spread as if we are a nation. If we are a nation, why can't those fair spirit of fair representation, why is not applicable if that were the case? So I quite agree to a large extent that these things are not being upheld as intended. And the only way we can achieve, social development is by bringing back some of these structures that were put in place to ensure that there's fair representation of all individuals in the society. Doing away with segregation, doing away with partiality, doing away with sectionalism, doing away with nepotism. They are the opposite of the concept of rule of law. They are an enemy to the concept of rule of law. So I agree completely to a large extent that we as students of the society must keep advocating for, fairness, for reinstatement of some of these structures, so that Nigeria does not degenerate to a point where there are no social structures in place to ensure fair distribution and fair share of what's available in our society. So okay, that has been a very good contribution from everybody. Now, there's something I want us to do against tomorrow's lecture. We are going to pick topics. Let me appoint Mr. Joseph Odu to be the class leader in this particular course and form a class group, a WhatsApp group for SST 719. Now, I'm going to put some topics up in that group, and you are going to pick from there. You will do a summary on these topics, and we will discuss it together tomorrow, because I really appreciate participation in my classes. It's a law class, but this is not a core. You are not registered as a core law student. So the only way we appreciate these courses is when we relate these issues to our day-to-day living. You are going back to apply this knowledge in your workplaces as you go back and begin to integrate or relate with the society. These concepts are going to be useful to you. So when we don't discuss them and quite appreciate them, it will not be too useful to us. It will just be like one of those head knowledge things that we just print out and read and go back. You won't really appreciate it. So I'm going to put on the page that will be created, certain topics, and it will be shared, not something very elaborate, because I will also be here to make further inputs into all the topics. And the topics we are going to be dealing with tomorrow will be, I want you to write down, if you have your pen and paper with you, before we come up with a group. That group should come up immediately after we finish this lecture. All the members of the class should be added so that we make the class more lively and more interactive. So we are going to deal with a topic on social justice tomorrow. And that concept of social justice, one person will take on it. Another person anyway, we're going to look at the topic on social justice generally. I'll do the breakdown and put it on the class wall. So I will share it out to members of the class. You will do like a 10 minutes presentation on the topic. Just check it out, browse it, have an idea of what it is. You will discuss with us. So that also means that you have to be present in the class. And I'm hoping that we start our class tomorrow by 9 so that we won't run into the day. Once we come and the people that are around can just start the class, we will discuss them and make it more lively. So I'll quickly do the breakdown and send it to Mr. Joseph, and we distribute it between now and tomorrow 9 a.m. You should be ready. You are not coming to present it in slides or anything. You will tell us what that topic that you are carrying is about, and the basics of what you understand it to be. If we ask questions and you cannot answer, I will answer, or any member of the class will answer, so that we be together and carry ourselves along for the class of tomorrow. So I think on that note, except if there is a question I'm going to drop, we are going to stop the class at this point until I send these questions to us. So Mr. Joseph, after this, you are going to chat me privately with your number. Yes.
Okay, I heard my name. That is why I said, okay, let me stop and ask question.
Okay.
Yes. So I don't know what you asked me to do, man.
Okay, you are in transit, right?
Yes, I'm on bike going to school.
Okay. Oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay, so I say I'm giving you an assignment to be the class head of this SST 719. So immediately after we finish from here, we are rounding off for today. You are going to create a WhatsApp group. You will add all the members of SST 719, and I'm going to distribute topics to everyone so that from tomorrow, once we come to class, you will tell us about that topic, not to present it on slides or any such presentation that will give you sleepless night to. Just browse about the topic, tell us what it is about. We will all make inputs. I will be available. You know, the level you stop, I take on from there. Even people have questions, they ask. If you cannot answer, I answer, or any other member of the class will answer. So that we make the class interesting, participatory, and at the end, we will appreciate the knowledge of what we are gathering and be able to effectively apply it even when we leave the class.
It's okay, ma.
So you understood me now, right?
Yes, ma. Noted, ma.
Okay, so you also chat me privately on your WhatsApp number so I can save it. And then immediately after that, please set up these WhatsApp groups, target SST 719, legal issues in social development. So all the members that are here and who are intending to join should be added to the group so we can start distributing the topics immediately. Please, let me assure you, don't go becoming jittery. It's just for us to understand what you also understand. Even if what you understand is not even right, don't even be too worried. We are together and we'll be able to assist each other to be able to work as a team. I will appreciate better if we work as a team. And this person that has entered with his Technopova, subsequently, please enter the class with your proper name so that we identify you. Register in the class with your name so that we have. Any other question before we leave? Okay, so silence means that there's no question again for today. So we are going to end the class at this point. So see you tomorrow.
Thank you, ma.
All right.
All right, ma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So bye. Thank you.
Can I end the meeting? So you can end the meeting now. I came in late.
Okay.